Hello and welcome to a new video, guys. My name's Stephen. This is Stephen's Psychic Readings. Today we're going to be talking about angels. Step one is releasing. Talking with our angels is natural and joyful, and they love it every bit as much as we do. Since that's the case, why doesn't everybody do it all the time? The reason is that we have to meet them on their frequency, which is different from our own, because they are not in physical bodies. Their vibration is finer. To talk with them, to commune, we need to move out of our ordinary state of mind, the one that's concerned about jobs, relationships, living in space, health, and so forth, and move into higher mind. To do this, we need to learn to let go, and that's why releasing is the next step. Releasing worries, concerns, and negative self-belief frees us to enter the state of clarity, neutrality, and unconditional love that characterizes the angelic realm. It brings us to a place of forgiveness for ourselves and others, and it feels great. The angels are ready to assist us in our ordinary daily lives. So it isn't that our worldly concerns are unimportant, they are important peculiarly because they are they. Significant factor in making the angelic connection. If we are down on ourselves, feeling unworthy or guilty, or harboring unhappy feelings about others, we are not hanging out in higher mind. To fly with the angels, we need to travel light, and that means lightening up. This doesn't mean we have to be saints to talk with our angels, only that we need to clear ourselves of the mental and emotional baggage that we carry around with us much of the time. The releasing techniques in this chapter will help you unload that baggage so you can begin to converse quite naturally with your winged companions, since releasing also helps to bring clarity to everyday life. You may find that things start working better and that you're happier, less stressed, and more at peace with yourself. The negative voice, there is a particular aspect of the ego that sometimes gets in the way of connecting with the angels. The ego in itself is not bad, even though it's developed an unsavory reputation in some spiritual cycles. It's the ego that has our best interest at heart. It works to protect us from disappointment and a sense of failure. But when it is not nurtured by love and self-acceptance, the ego develops a negative edge and reflects feelings of unworthiness and self-criticism. We hear this negative voice in our head. It's the part that judges us, and the verdict is guilty or not. Enough. It compares us usually unfavorably, criticizes or scolds, and holds us up to impossible standards of perfection. Or it flatters us, trying to make us feel better about ourselves by finding faults with others and blaming them for the shortcomings. Sometimes a negative voice speaks as I, as in I'm hopeless, I'll never get anywhere, and sometimes it uses you. As in, you dummy, what did you do that for? It's impossible to be in an opened heart state when this voice is running the show. We found that the best way to deal with this negative voice is to recognize it. Start by simply acknowledging it. Oh, there's my negative voice again, like a peaky child winning for attention. The negative voice will respond positively to the recognition by lowering its volume. Once you become aware of it, by acknowledging it, you can begin to identify negativity that you have been harboring. To help you spot pockets of negativity, here's a list of issues that we've found come up most frequently and some of the behaviours they generate. Unworthiness, doubt, fear of disappointment, perfectionism, pride, inadequacy, criticism of self and or others, anger, hatred, grief, self-loathing, feeling of alienation, fear of intimacy, abandonment, rejection, resentment, envy, jealousy, guilt, victimization, shame, blame, dishonesty, and denial. Ask your angels need to control ambivalence, indecisions, boredom, apathy, lack of focus, procrastination, fatuity, depression, greed. Each of us has different issues in the event that we miss any of yours. 2. The exercise that follow will prepare you for releasing techniques by helping you to identify your issues. So I will go through that in another video if people do take note of this video. We will now go on to the next, which is part 2. Part 2. The steps beginning with grounding and then releasing each time you get ready to talk with your angels. Ask yourself first if anything is getting in the way in that moment, but there may be something there that needs to be released. Even when you've worked through the module issues or your list, you may find that some of them pop up again, possibly surfacing in clever new ways. Don't be discouraged. Practice, develop proficiency, and the more practice you get, the better you'll be at identifying and discharging outgrown ways of being. If you felt unworthy your whole life, it's unrealistic to expect to be able to release all of that unworthiness in one session. Be loving with yourself. You don't have to be perfect before you can communicate with your angels. You have to be willing to release a single molecule of whatever blocks you're carrying, and the space that empties out is room enough for your angel to enter. So we're now going to go on to forgiveness. Forgiveness is an expression of love, and it is based on an acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean that you have to like it. It means you are willing to let it be and to go on with your life. Lack of forgiveness inhibits your personal progress by keeping you stuck. It blinds you to the person or situation that you haven't forgiven, just as surely as if you were chained to it. It takes you out of the moment, out of the present time, and returns you to an unhappy or pleasant state. And it's worse for you than for the person you haven't even forgiven, because it generates bad feelings, and you carry those feelings with you all the time, whether you're aware of them or not. While we talk about forgiving others, it is ourselves we need to forgive the most. to forgive for not living up to our ideas of how we ought to be there in such pain and this, so much self-flagellation. If only we could be compassionated with ourselves, we find that there is really no one else we need to forgive. We would accept our humanness good-naturedly and find ways to praise, not criticise or blame. And once we begin to do this, our self-acceptance of self-forgiveness would start to spread to others. Releasing is the key to forgiveness. To forgive, you have to let go of hurt, resentment, anger, and the desire for revenge or retaliation. Practicing the basic releasing exercise will help you to develop your skills in letting go. Don't give up. If it doesn't happen immediately, keep doing the releasing. Forgiveness is like water. It always flows into the lowest places, all the cracks and creeps. The moment we allow ourselves to release something, a healing flows of forgiveness and rushes in after. He did the basic releasing exercise. Alan felt the energy of forgiveness washing in for him and for his brother. This feeling stayed with him and deepened, and some weeks later he was able to phone his brother for the first time in many years. The power of forgiving, the power of forgiveness comes to Timothy in a strange, exhilarating way. In 1984, following what had been for him a very dark and troubling year. I'd complete my first book 2 years earlier and had been searching for an appropriate publisher. And a coincidence of mine, a well-known West Coast author, seemed interested. She encouraged me to send her my manuscript and said she would recommend it to her publisher. A year went by and I heard nothing from her. First I worried about it, then I got resentful. Finally I was so furious that I couldn't release the negative thoughts that kept playing over and over in my head. Time passed, and in spite of my gentle reminders, there was no response I felt. Rejected and hurt, and although I wanted to be able to forgive her and worked with my angels regularly to release my anger, it kept coming back. Some months later I was in England. It was New Year's Eve. I've decided to spend the night alone meditating in the 14th century tower built to St. Michael that stands atop Glastonbury Tor. As part of a spiritual purification, I asked my angels to help me locate, forgive, and release any hurts or injustices that I might still be harbouring. Of course, the author name rose to the surface of my consciousness as I sat shivering in the icy cold. I reviewed the entire situation, felt all horrible feelings of blame and rejection one last time, and asking my angels to help. I let go. I forgave her. At dawn, I tottered stiff-legged down the steep Connaught Hill, picking my way between the sheep, and slept the day away at my bed and breakfast. That evening, January 1st, 1984, was warm and mellow. I climbed up the Tor again to watch the rose-pink sunset flood the sky. I shut my eyes to meditate, my back against the ancient stones of the tower. Moments of great peace and joy passed, and I felt a gentle movement in my hair, as if the wind had stirred it. The next thing I knew, there was a soft pressure sure my ears. Deep in my meditation, I did not open my eyes. Then an explosion of sound, fragile music from the film Chariots, of fire, with William through my head in an iffy of wonder. Someone had put earphones on my head. Minutes later, when the super music had risen to its final crescendo, I opened my eyes. There in front of me, with a great grin all over my face, stood the author. 6,000 miles from home in forging land, and on top of this small and holy hill. I hadn't seen her in over a year, but in that moment all was indeed forgiven. Using the releasing techniques will help you to experience the power of forgiveness. To take your time working through this chapter, you're entitled to all the time you need. When you feel lighter and more accepting of others, of yourself and others, you'll know it, and you'll be ready to go on to the next chapter. Part 4. Angels are a divine manifestation of the benevolent. Their purpose is to resound a frequency of benevolent consciousness in its purest form, to awaken that same consciousness within all sentient beings. They are everywhere, ever present, overseeing, watching, waiting with infinite patience, always resonating a frequencies of pure consciousness. Angels are essentially formless beings, taking form only when it helps to serve an interaction. We tend to only see the effect of their presence, just like we see the wind only by what it rustles. They help you to connect with the path of light that flows through your soul directly back to the source of creation. If you open, they can help you stay on track to find the path when you are lost. They can help you find the way home. They don't do this by overriding your free will, nor by telling you what to do. Not by forcing, nor coercing. They do this by resounding a frequency that reminds you of your own innate divine beingness. All you have to do is find a moment of pure surrender and openness. To open to their presence, to feel your entire world flood with an energy of the purest consciousness. What you do with it, how it inspires you, what you are ready to embrace within yourself, the choice is completely yours. Let your journey a little further. Let's journey a little further. Trinity is an experienced empath energy work around 18 years ago.